market. And it provides, it doesn't put us in competition, direct competition with any other make that is out there. We offer solutions that are different. I know some of you don't really know anything about our history or the mark or anything of the nature, but everything from A to Z is hand-built. That means that our cabinets, my top woodwork, I used to go out and choose the veneers personally, and we used to go through thousands of sheets of veneers to select the exact grain that has vivacity and depth and lusciousness to it. Even on the lowest cost products, we take great care of with this. So we choose our veneers. We put a propriety MDF that goes from 95% hardwood to 65% hardwood. That costs us 8 to 9 times as much as a standard sheet. Our speakers are never heavy. We're the antithesis of people who build IKEA-type speakers. IKEA speakers to us, you know, that are 2 inches thick, weigh 150 pounds, are totally stupid. The best furniture that I've owned in my life was fine English, American-made furniture in the 1800s, which was fairly light, beautifully crafted, beautifully jointed, beautifully veneered, and could last 150 years. When we had our 20th anniversary, Lucy on purpose bought back one of our old speakers, which was the staff, around this size, just to show me that that 20-year-old unit or 18-year-old unit was magnificent. It held up. It doesn't look old after a year or two. And that is because we interdigitate our corners. We lock miter them. So we don't have a simple folding process like everyone. I can tell you, all of these other boxes, they come into the shop, they do a V-cut, they fold it, they glue it, then they put a face and a rear. The speaker's out in probably 20 minutes, at least the cabinet. It takes 9 hours of labor, believe it or not, from top to bottom, to produce a pair of barrels, and we still retail them at approximately $1,500. Minute quality made, small quality made. The interjointing that we do is, you can't do it on the CNC. It has to be pre-cut, then routed on each edge, 4 edges, and then squeezed together. But this box can stand on its own with no glue. So everything is interdigitated in our boxes. Expansion, contraction do not affect it. So if we're in California where there's 20% humidity, or when we're in Hong Kong with 95% humidity, no effect. And that's what I mean that a product stays new, you know, when you show it. So a Totem product, even if it's on your shelf for 5 years, it'll look beautiful. And this integrity that we build with, at least for this particular aspect, is not found in any other manufacturer, we believe, in North America. In addition, we put this chalky substance that was developed by NASA that's called borosilica dampening. Just that paint. Imagine, we veneer the outside of the box. We veneer the inside of the box, and then we paint it so you can't see that veneer on the inside. But we veneer both sides to equalize expansion and contraction pressures. And then this borosilica, those of you who know cars, it's basically a molecular energy dissipator. All that means is it acts like a radiator. That means that the speaker will never change Q. You don't need a magic hour for listening to Totem. You don't have to wait till midnight, hope to pray that the electricity is good, and then you get your 20 minutes of magic. When I was your age, young man, I enjoyed listening to music. I spent almost $5,000 on a pair of speakers. I felt so guilty. I went home and I said, oh, but at least I'll be whole. I love music. I'm going to listen to them. And this is one of the finest American makes, and then I went to a British make. And I found that all these speakers, after 45 minutes of listening, they lost that magic. Jimi Hendrix didn't sound as good. Led Zeppelin was crappy. Monteverdi, well, he looked like he belonged in another century. Why? Because a speaker will change Q. There's a lot of thermodynamic energy in a speaker. And if you don't control it mathematically, scientifically, not with foam, not with felt, you don't want to put polyfill inside a speaker like everybody else does. Why? Because that's electrostatic, and it attracts the different motor elements, different compositions that are in that motor. So a woofer is a voice coil. It's electromagnetic. It'll attract all that microscopic dust, get on this voice coil, and degrade with time. As soon as the wiring inside a speaker gets oxidized, that speaker loses performance. All our wiring is Teflon coated, silver coated, copper, so it doesn't oxidize. We use over 40 different types of wiring inside our speakers. Not all the same wiring for the tweeter, not all the same wiring for the woofers. And all this maniacal attention to detail, so the speaker does not change in characteristic. Instead of buying my diesel Mercedes, which I should have back in the 70s, I went and bought that speaker and it was a disaster. It was great for a while, it wasn't great all the time, and I couldn't get over it. I had invested and I felt cheated. Second experience, my brother had bought a beautiful pair of speakers. I said, I want the same pair. I brought it to my house, it worked with my system. I said, I'm going to get the same pair of speakers. I brought it home, didn't sound at all like that one, because in different months of production, companies sometimes change little things in their speaker and it can make a magic speaker sound extremely ordinary. Again, that's counterproductive, and I swore that if we started a company, that would never happen. So we make sure that our wiring doesn't oxidize, that our boxes dissipate energy beyond any others. That's for most of our models. The Rainmaker and Arrow and Up on our wood product have this borosilicate. The tribes don't need it. It's a different technology. So doing this. Great cabinet work. We have our own cabinet shop. And the people who work in it, it's headed by Chris Sand, who's a giant Viking. And believe me, he runs a tight ship. He doesn't have, there's no fudging there. Everybody works hard, everybody sands by hand. Imagine a tall, sometimes even the wind speaker has to be sanded on a type of thing, and you can't screw up the veneer. And we don't let anything go out of our factory. It's not picture perfect. So he sands in a fantastic fashion. We have real world craftsmen. Imagine, we put almost 9 hours labor into a pair of these. It takes 45 minutes for one of my best technicians just to assemble the crossover on an arrow. Now you open up a $50,000 pair of speakers, you will not see this quality componentry. And this is no printed circuit boards, all hardwired, silver soldered, resistors that we have started to rebuild because they're carbon composites and they were fantastic resistors like they used to use in tube amplifiers in the 40s and 50s. We have 3 or 4 companies who rebuild this. Capacitors that are specially made in Vermont, SBE, specifically squishes them, specifically fills them up with dampening agents, and then we utilize some exotic European capacitors to intermesh that. So why do we spend $48 on just raw parts for a little arrow crossover, and then 45 minutes to assemble it by hand, so it does not deteriorate with time? You can use this for 100 years and it'll sound even better than the day you bought it. And we put this in some of our lowest cost products, such as the Arrow. But the Arrow is revered in Europe and in other places. Here you have it placed this far apart, but you can put an Arrow 1.5 feet apart in a room, and you should try it. And it gives you a magnificent image. Diana Krall, when she came over to our place, she could have had any other speaker. She had a small condo in Vancouver. She chose the Arrows. She says, beautiful. The snap from the Love Scene CD at that time, that's what we were listening to. It was amazing, and she chose the Arrow. People like Eric Clapton chose the Manitou. Other people choose. We have hundreds of personalities. Tom Petty and hundreds of others. Simply Red. Eros Ramazzotti in Italy. We have 10, 15 people just in Montreal in the symphony orchestra that choose Totem products for very specific reasons. Are we better than anybody else? We just build things differently. And we offer you a solution for women and for people who are a little more difficult. Most of the, I think that the tendency is to go to smaller, but guys don't want to lose their performance, and you won't with a Totem product. So we take 8, 9 hours to build these particular little units. That's an enormity of time for a pair of speakers, but you can tell in the end that the sound will lead you in a certain way. So Totem sound is very expressive. Later on, I hope we can use this room later on and make some musical presentations. Sure. Okay, good. And you'll see that I'll place the arrows maybe very close to them, and I'll even turn them around. And you'll see that even turning them around 180 degrees, you'll still get a stereo image. Because we do things in phase that are meticulously done. I don't sweat the details for years to perfect an Arrow speaker and then change models because, oh, it doesn't sell that well. Are we going to change to model C? No, it's like a fine instrument. Marshall or some of the great guitar makers, Fender, they don't change models because all of a sudden, you know, the tendency has changed. They'll introduce other models for certain needs, but we build specific models when you don't have other things next to them, look beautiful in a home. In the Palace of Versailles, there's an arrow. Our old Prime Minister in Montreal used to have a pair of hawks. Why? Canadian-made excellence, North American-made excellence. And when he used to play them, they were a full-range speaker. Beautiful. They're not head-banging speakers. We have head-banging models that can scream, but they're sophisticated. They'll give you about everything that a speaker can do and transmit that feeling to even the most novice person. You don't have to be an audiophile to enjoy a Totem. You just put it on and it'll play beautifully. Now, I urge you, I know you have some of the models, and I think that we can have a tremendous success with Totem at Century Sound, because the most successful stores in North America have exactly this type of floor plan. We have a store in Toronto, Bay Bloor, and I urge you, if you're in Toronto, to go visit that store. You'll see there's a great similarity with yours. We started with them 12 years ago, and they used to put us upstairs in a little room, close the door, don't open the door, don't open the door, you know, or show it with only specific product. And we say, no, mainstream us. You have NAD, you have Rotel, you have Yamaha, put us with that. And you'll see that will surprise people. So even to the novice, I know you hear you have the little dream catcher. Well, the little dream catcher, that's not where it sounds best. It sounds best in a weird position. It sounds best one here on a tabletop and another one on the floor at 45 degrees, and it'll give you a stereo image. And yet that is a revered little model that in Europe sells for £900 sterling. And we sell against British and European competition of the most expensive type, and we do very well. But again, you have to feel it. You have to understand these models by living with them for a while. And once that confidence is established, you'll see that you'll be able to absolutely transmit it to the public that you so serve with devotion.